Hello, everyone. Happy Saturday. Hope you guys are doing amazing today. So, as you guys can tell, we're coming from a whole different location. I am actually in Lake Charles, Louisiana. I'm here for CypherCon. So, we're going to cross fingers that actually our internet works well, because if not, it's going to be a little glitchy and I won't be able to tell. So, let's cross fingers for that. And two, hopefully, you guys are excited and having a really, really good Saturday. Thank you for everyone and all the amazing birthday wishes you guys sent me. Love you all. I'm thinking I have now passed the whole concept of hitting 47. I don't know. I'm still questioning it, but here we are. So we're going to be doing questionable just one chapter experiment again. So remember last time I introduced you to Forbidden War? You got the beginning, you got to meet Isis again, you got to introduce to Eugene, who happens to be Pestilence intern. And his whole idea on the Pestilence wants to develop another whooping cough or whatever Pestilence does to, terrorize humanity. If you're interested in figuring out what she does and where her secret lab is located, check out Plague Unleashed. That was last book we did. So, book 3 in the series is Forbidden War. When I decided to do this little experiment, I was going to introduce you to chapter 1 and see if somehow Miss Magnet could convert you all to picking up this book. That was the whole entire goal. Then I realized it can just be any chapter. It doesn't have to be the first chapter. So today I'm going to pick chapter 10 in this book. Primarily because as I've been sitting at this con, people come up and just kind of flip through the books and just kind of pick a chapter to read or a passage, which to me has always been very interesting. I was like, it's an interesting thing to do. So we're going to pick up on chapter 10. One of the reasons is, so book 3 of the series introduces you to war. So 2, it's the third of the horsemen, happens to be that sibling, if you want to look in a way. So you met Pestilence last week, who's deliciously evil. And yes, you're not allowed to like her. It's okay. She's not meant to be that likable. War, on the other hand, is kind of fun. He's charismatic. And in the series, he looks a little bit like The Rock. He has the charisma, he has all the things. And he has one intern, unlike Pestilence, who has 10. His intern happens to be Katrina, because I love that name. Why not? And Katrina happens to be in trouble because she accidentally managed to have peace in the Middle East. So, because war is in the business of all the army being in charge, she happens to have been demoted from the ultimate general to I think she's now colonel. So, that's kind of the part. So, chapter 10, you have a cute little interaction between Isis and Katrina and kind of all the people chasing them. So, it's just a little bit of kind of backstory. You get to meet Isis' godmother, which was an interesting process because I've been talking about her godmother for like 2 chapters and I had never met her. So this is the book that you get to meet godmother and find out like, ooh, godmother is not what Isis thought. So instead of just being this flaky little, nomad that wants around, she happens to run all the witches in the world. And Isis is not happy. So backstory and all of that. So there's a little bit more build up into the series. I am notorious for introducing you and giving you characters as they appear on the page. So we find out together. So I am notorious for dating my characters as I write. So that's what we're at. So chapter 10, we're going to pick it up. So Isis happens to be in Kansas. And I would say, I usually tell people the story of Isis is not mine. This is not my autobiography. But I do pick from places that I've been and places that I enjoy. So Katrina happens to be stationed in Fort Riley, which is my old former military base. Really, because I really like Fort Riley's in Kansas and just like Texarkana, what happens in Kansas? Well, when you put the horsemen in locations, a whole bunch of madness happens in those locations. So this is where they're at. So I'm going to get us started. Remember, this is questionable just one chapter experiment. And the goal is to see what do you think of this chapter and it will make you actually pick up the book. So let's try this. You guys ready? Here we go. Chapter 10. Katrina left the company SUV in the parking lot and we took her personal vehicle. I don't know what difference it made since her SUV was almost an exact replica of the company one. But I figure it was better not to ask. By the way, not sure if I actually explained. Every one of the books for this series specifically is first person. Isis is the one narrating. So it is technically licensed. Isis' story as she narrates this madness that she's going through. So Just kind of a little FYI in case I didn't put that out there before. Here we are. Sometimes knowing a person's motive was more traumatizing than the actual act. I learned I could forgive somebody's action as long as they had good intentions. We drove in silence, but when we hit the highway, my thoughts took over and my curiosity kicked in. Trina, why is the Elf King so against his daughter dating or marrying the vampire hunter? I asked her, hoping she wouldn't be as critical as Constantine. How much do you know about elves? Katrina asked me without taking her eyes off the road. She sure had a way of answering my questions with questions of her own. I hope she wasn't planning to do that every time. Absolutely nothing useful, I admitted, unless you count the stuff you see on TV. My job was to deal with the dead, and they were mostly all humans. So I wasn't that concerned about the supernatural beings that were living. That's probably a good thing, Katrina told me. It means you haven't dealt with them. Katrina took a long pause, and I was afraid that was all she was going to tell me. Then she spoke again. Elves are purely magical. Beautiful beings are very old. The very essence has an effect on the natural world. Unfortunately, most are proud and arrogant. They don't believe in their kind mixing with any others. They want to keep their essence pure. She gave me a quick look as she waited for my reply. Oh, great. So basically, we're in the middle of a West Side Story or a complicated Romeo and Juliet, I told Katrina as I took a deep breath. I'm hoping this one has a better ending than Romeo and Juliet. Katrina offered me a sad smile. So according to this, my internet connection is unstable. So let's hope we can make it through, please. See? Crossing fingers again. So let's see what we can do. So just bear with me. We'll see what we can do. We're gonna make it through. It's only chapter. We got this. I had to do a double take to make sure Katrina was serious. I didn't expect you to be the romantic type. Isis, there's only one thing worth fighting for, and that is love. Katrina's eyes went back on the road. Soldiers fight and die for love of the country, love of their brothers and sisters in arms, and love for their families. You know that. Katrina said, not really expecting an answer. She knew I would agree with her. Every soldier would. She continued, her voice a little softer this time. I've seen them together. They radiate joy and it's contagious. It's the kind of stuff you only see in movies. Are you telling me the vampires only won her back for love? I wasn't sure I was buying that. Oh, please. Arthur wants her back because he's crazy about her and will die his second death to protect her, Katrina sounded amused. His master, the self-proclaimed emperor of the vampires, needs her for political leverage. Katrina glanced at me. I must have looked lost because she kept going. The emperor decided that North America wasn't big enough for him. He wants the whole world under his command. He has started a takeover. And his hire marries the elf's most beloved princess. He's hoping to discourage other fighting. She's trying to roll her eyes at the end. How do the Luthfors feel about all this mess? I wasn't sure I will handle the drama well. Better than imagined, Katrina answered, almost smiling. Genevieve is a brilliant strategist and one of her father's greatest generals. She was working on a way to not be used as a pawn by the vamps and convince her family to agree. Katrina's voice carried a tone of pride in it. Do you really think she might be missing? She looked at me when she asked that last part. Maybe, and answered honestly. But it's a possibility that needs to be ruled out. We need to check with people on both sides to make sure they really haven't seen her. Nobody's looking for her, and she could be in serious danger. So the entire essence is that the Elven Princess has been missing. And because everybody has been fighting, nobody actually has decided that looking for her will be a good idea. And to Isis gets dragged into this because, they need a negotiator. And Death happens to be a really, unbiased character in this bizarre war. And she has 3 days to find this princess that she volunteered to go look for because Isis doesn't know how to stay in her own lane, just in case. But at the same time, she's the only one who's asking the questions. Like, has anybody looked for her? Like, is she really missing? So now they're all going, what if she's missing? And this is not a plot from every side to have their way. So this is where the girls are at, trying to figure it out. Is she actually being kidnapped? Because this could be bad. So who stole What's going on? I stared out my window, reminiscing about the time Bob had been kidnapped. All his people in Texarkana had disappeared, and not a single person had been looking for them. If we hadn't found them, they'd all be dead. Didn't want this princess to end up the same way. You're right, Katrina said, and we both fell silent. Sana was really comfortable with Katrina, like we had been friends for a long time. After several minutes, Katrina cleared her throat. I was hoping this was a part of Genevieve's plans to get everyone to accept their engagements and let them be happy. Do you really think she will risk a war to achieve that? If this princess was such a well-liked, I was hoping she loved her people enough to not volunteer them for war. No, never, Katrina said in a quiet tone. So now I just hope we aren't too late. Katrina shook her head. Nobody has contacted either side asking for ransom. So we might be in luck. And we might not, but I didn't want to voice my fears that the reason they hadn't us was because she was dead. Everyone's back, Katrina announced as she stared into her rearview mirror. It took them long enough. Who? I had no idea what she was talking about. I glanced out the back window, but I couldn't see a thing. I wonder if Ward's gifts to his intos included night vision. That would be awesome. If I'm correct, and I'm sure I am, our shooters from the afternoons are back. Katrina looked way too cheery for my taste. Isis, take the wheel. Before I could ask for explanations, Katrina climbed out of her seat. I snatched the wheel and realized this looked a lot easier in the movies than in real life. When Katrina made her way to the back of the SUV, I jumped in the driver's side. I tried to glance around, but I couldn't see what Katrina was doing. So one of my favorite sayings down is, Jesus, take the wheel. I honestly wanted to really put that somewhere in a book and see if I could pull it off, except that if anybody has ever tried to take a wheel when somebody lets go, it's a lot harder than it seems. So giving Isis some credit for trying to maneuver this. P.S. I did not try to replicate the same on my own. So just in case you're wondering, not trying to do super maneuvers in here. So yes. Oh, hi, Charles. Welcome. So here we go. So this is probably one of those don't try this at home kind of scene. Just an FYI for everybody. Let's see what we can do. Isis, open the sunroof, Katrina said from somewhere in the back. I searched the dark SUV for the button. It is next to the rearview mirror, she told me. Got it. I told her as I pressed the little button. What are you planning to do? I had a horrible feeling I already knew, but I figured conforming was in order. Just planning to return the favor to our welcoming committee, Katrina's voice gave me goosebumps. I angled myself and glanced at the rearview mirror to find Katrina pulling a barrel of a 50 cal from somewhere near. For the love of God, do you always carry a 50 cal in your car? I blinked hard and looked again, hoping I had been seeing things. No, it was still there. Who kept a machine gun in their vehicle? So for anybody who's not familiar with military equipment, because Katrina happens to be a soldier, 50 cal is fairly large and heavy, and it takes multiple people to usually carry the barrel because she can separate the gun. So the fact that she has one magically in the back of her SUV, it's grounds for ISIS to seriously question this. And yes, I have carry a barrel of 50 cal. It's not that easy, so let me just put it that way. So ISIS has some questions, and so do the rest of us. So here we are. Where else would I carry it? Katrina replied, her voice way too calm. We have several on the roof of the compound, plus a few rocket launchers. She beamed with pride. Do you need help? I can stop the vehicle. Last time I checked, the gun and the tripod weighed over 100 pounds. Not at all. I just need to install the barrel. Katrina wasn't even breathing hard when she spoke. Girl, how much do you bench press? I asked, completely in awe of her. On a light date, 225, maybe 250. Katrina flashed me another smile before going back to the open sunroof. Oh, okay. I guess you got this then. My eyes went back to the road and I focused on driving, staying in my lane. Super Trooper could handle everything else. Isis, I need you to speed up, Katrina told me. Peering over my shoulders, I saw Katrina carrying a box of ammo out. How fast? I wasn't sure what the top speed for an SUV was, but I didn't want to lose Katrina in the process. Gun it. I want to see how many are following us. Katrina answered as she put on her goggles. At least she believed in some sort of safety measures. Not much. When she was planning to fire a 50 cal from an SUV, I'm pretty she had done some big modification to this vehicle. We were going to be in a world of hurt. Looking at the rearview mirror, all I could see was Katrina's legs on the empty road. This was definitely the craziest thing I ever done in a movie vehicle. At least in the States. Without thinking too much about the situation, I hit the gas and the SUV roared to life. I was pondering what kind of engine they added to this thing to make it move this fast when Katrina brought the 50 cal to life. The sound filled the night like thunder. Damn it! Katrina screamed. I looked at the rearview mirror as Katrina lowered her head inside. I hit one, but we got three more on the tail, Katrina said, her voice exasperated. Isis, underneath your seat, you'll find a 9mm. You're going to need it. After those words, she popped up again and started firing. The vehicles behind us all turned their headlights on. I wonder if they thought Katrina had night vision goggles, and they were hoping to blind her. Poor fools. They should have made this a lot easier on her. Within seconds, she took another one out. The lights made it easier for me to see, which helped. From the looks, I had a feeling their vehicles were bulletproof, but I wasn't certain they were 50 cal proof. Once again, just a little information to help you out. 50 cals are designed by the military to take out vehicles. So not many civilian vehicles, even armored vehicles in the States, are meant to take a 50 cal. Just saying. They're meant for tanks and all the big stuff. So put it in perspective, just in case you guys were wondering. The two remaining cars swerve again and again, trying to evade Katrina's full onslaught of bullet sprays. But when they started slowing down, a sense of panic drifted through my chest. I glanced ahead of us and found the reason they slowed. They hadn't meant to take us out. They'd been herding us to a roadblock, and sure enough, a line of vehicles blocked the road ahead of us. This just keeps getting better and better. Katrina, I yelled, hoping she would hear me. What? Katrina yelled back as she pulled her head in. I'm going to need you to clear the road, I told her as I pointed toward the roadblock. Hold on, I'm going to give you a clear shot. Katrina gave me a weird look, probably questioning my skills. I didn't blame her. I did too. I prayed to God that Bob's training paid off. If it didn't, we were going to become part of the road. Right before I took my foot off the accelerator, I made a silent cross over my heart. Just like that. Then I propelled us forward and turned the vehicle 180 degrees. As soon as I had us facing the opposite direction, I shoved it in reverse. I was lucky. Bob had made me drive hundreds of times like this, so it was easy for me. Sure enough, it worked. Katrina had a clear path to shoot as I drove forward as fast as possible. Since Katrina was a sharpshooter, she demolished the line of vehicles with a machine gun. People darted out of the way and dove behind trees on the side of the road to avoid being shot. I headed straight for them, not caring. I figured if this SUV could handle a 50 cal, I'd probably be remodeled to take on large collisions impact and keep on going. We plowed straight in the pile of cars that was left after Katrina's massacre. Fortunately, nobody decided to jump in front of us. I highly doubted I could have stopped fast enough not to hit them. Anyways, we went about a mile before I turned the vehicle around. After Katrina dismantled the 50 cal, she drove in the front. Isis, you are amazing, Katrina said, giving me a high five. I couldn't help it. I smiled at her praise. Here, text Bartholomew and give him a status update. I handed her my phone. Since Bartholomew had programmed everyone's phone numbers for me, I pressed this picture for her. We need to be in the air as soon as we get there. Too easy, Katrina replies as she started typing. Any ideas who keeps trying to take us out? I asked as I focused on the road and the rearview mirror. Not the most effective form of driving, but I was paranoid now. Those look more like human mercenaries than supernatural creatures, Katrina answered, not looking away from the phone. The elves would never hire humans to do their dirty work. It would be stooping too low for them. Plus, according to them, humans are too messy. Katrina rolled her eyes again. I guess she wasn't too fond of the elves. I doubt it was in the vampires either. One master vampire could tear this vehicle apart with their bare hands. So they wouldn't waste funds on parlor tricks like that. She handed me my phone back. Unless they don't want to kill us. What if their goal is just enrage the horsemen? All they have to do is slow us down, I told her, her eyes wide as she thoughts poured through her mind. Whoever's doing this seems to want to start a war, right? It will be way easier if we missed our deadline. And if I had no idea which side was doing this, but I wasn't interested in ruling either side out, I just want to know how they keep finding us, Katrina said as she looked out the window. Would it be possible your locations to be compromised? People always try to bug our locations. We had to do sweeps often to ensure they didn't get away with it. I wondered that myself, Katrina told me. I sent orders to the guys to check each location. Not much we can do now. She made herself comfortable and buckled up her seatbelt. I guess. But now we need to watch our backs because they might know where we're going, I told Katrina. I wish I knew her secret to staying calm, Lisa, because inside my heart raced and panic settled in my chest. One thing at a time, Katrina told me. We would cross that bridge when we get there. Airport first? Katrina had a point. What was the use of stressing over things we couldn't figure out? There's plenty of things to stress about with that. So, my friends, welcome. We have finished chapter 10. 1 and 0. Will you pick up the rest of this book and actually read it after this one? So it is Questionable Chess One Chapter Experiment. My goal was to introduce you or kind of pick a chapter here. See what you guys thought. Will you pick it up? Are you interested? Yes, I do tons of military jargons with this one, primarily because Katrina works for war. So you get a little bit of taste of the military, you get a little bit of action, and poor Isis, who continues just to try to mind her business. On the same time, she's the one who picked this 3-day deadline to go find some crazy princesses she has never met in her life and has no idea what's going on. So, a twisted West Side Story, star-crossed lovers, Romeo and Juliet, whatever you want to do. For the girl who cannot date, that would be Isis, to try to save two lovers and getting themselves back together, super sweet. If she doesn't die in the process and brings Katrina with her. So, check it out. Forbidden War. I do have to give you guys a tidbit because I don't know if I'll pick another chapter. So this actually has some of my favorite fighting scenes because I had a blast writing this book since I get to have demons in this book and all the sort of things. But one of the things I have to tell you about Forbidden War while I'm here is because they have to search everywhere for all the things. They make a detour to hell. So one of the things that I actually had to realize is, how do I feel about going to hell? Let's be honest. I still believe that, if there is a hell, what would a hell look like? So I might actually read through the chapter of hell just because. And I'll have to admit that I got to introduce a new character here that honestly became everybody's favorite. So I went straight with the whole mythology of the boatman because somehow they have to get to hell. So what else? Have an entire boat system to take you there. So he is now known as DJ Bag of Bones because he gets paid with mixtapes because why not? So introducing, we might actually do that next week because I actually enjoy this. So this is one of those really bizarre pulling out of all sorts of mythologies to introduce you why death has so much money because they are super wealthy. So why not? Somebody has to pay the trip to hell or anywhere else. So that's fine. So thank you so much, everyone. I will be hopefully back at my place with maybe better internet, and we're going to come back to another questionable chapter 1 experiment. So, or just one chapter experiment. I think we changed the name. So have an amazing night, everyone. Let me know what you guys think. I'll be checking for you guys' comments. And thank you, everyone. Bye.